Hello, divine creations, divine marvels, children of God. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. Got a great question, so I'm making a video response to it. Hello, I have a question. If you say, I'm going to take out the name of the particular teacher. I'm switching the emphasis of this channel away from criticizing specific teachers. If you say such and such teacher only preaches one sentence, where can I find the whole page? Which I've said that this particular teacher and Neo-Advaita teachers in general, in terms of the whole of Advaita Vedanta, most of them are really just teaching a few sentences out of the book of Advaita Vedanta. Can you recommend some books to read about it? Some teachers that do teach the entire page. And if self-inquiry is only for the more advanced, where do I start? Which practices are there to really find out if I am the self? Thank you. Great question. Love it. Very practical. Practical questions too. Okay, where can you find the whole page? So there's a couple. So I'll share the sources that were helpful for me. One of them is James Schwartz in The Essence of Enlightenment. He has a website called The Shining World, and he offers that book for free online. Can you imagine a Vedanta teacher that offers their book for free? Go figure. He gives he gives you the full scope. He'll give you the book. And if self-inquiry is only for the more advanced, where do I start? Okay, well, James covers that. And this is just a classic fundamental idea in traditional Vedanta, is you start with the gunas. Meaning you start with the gunas are the three qualities of mind, and you come to an understanding of your own mind. How much tamas, inertia, how much rajas, desire, how much sattva, peace, does one have? And depending on that, that's which practice to do. If you have a lot of tamas, then you need to do karma yoga in the traditional sense of the word, not in the modern sense of karma yoga means doing service. Traditionally, karma yoga is actually an internal attitude, and James Schwartz covers it beautifully. The short version is that karma yoga is doing the right thing without desiring the results, offering the results over to God. For example, doing a good deed without expecting any reward. Literally, it's the way of life of doing what's right because it's your duty, not because you're trying to get anything. It's it's the beginning of the renunciation of desire. Now, if if one has a lot of rajas or desire, then bhakti yoga is the way. And in the West, we're well acquainted with bhakti yoga, various forms of worship, contemplating God, having a relationship to God, even going to religious services, any form of loving activity towards God. And part of it is the recognition that only true happiness is going to come from God. Now, those two things, karma yoga to eliminate tamas, bhakti yoga to not eliminate, minimize tamas. No tamas, we'd be dead or we'd be floating away. Life wouldn't work without a little tamas. Balancing rajas, desire, because we need desire for God, but desire for all these different objects and people, places, and things is just going to keep us right off the path. And then we cultivate sattva, but you do it in that order. It's, again, this is a very traditional idea, and James Schwartz covers it very well. And no Neo-Advaita teacher will cover it because it's bad for business, right? Neo-Advaita satsangs are basically people going and getting high, getting a temporary high off contemplating that I am the self, and getting high off the Shakti pot of the teacher. And if self-inquiry, next question, and if self-inquiry is only for the more advanced, where do I start? Karma yoga, bhakti yoga. You may be ready for self-inquiry. That's the thing. That's my beef with Neo-Advaita, is it teaches self-inquiry to everybody. Whereas traditional Vedanta prescribes self-inquiry only for, Ramana Maharshi himself said, until the mind is primarily sattvic, self-inquiry to realize the self is like trying to put out a fire with a wet noodle. So Ramana taught it in bits and pieces. Another source to come to understand traditional Vedanta is James, what's his name? Michael Goodman? Is it David Goodman's book, Be As You Are? And in this book, David really looks at all the different facets of Ramana's teaching. And he writes brilliant introductions at the beginning of each of those, each chapter. That was really helpful for me. The problem with reading any dialogues with Ramana Maharshi is Ramana wasn't, that dialogue was meant for that person. All you have to do is read enough Ramana Maharshi and you'll see one person, he says, inquire. Another person, he says, do japa. Another person, he says, surrender. Another person, he says, do whichever you think is most effective. Ramana did not teach to the masses, which is another beef I have with Neo-Advaita, is Vedanta is not, it's one thing to give an overview of Vedanta, but to give specific spiritual instruction, it's teacher to student, one-to-one. It's a mess out there. Which practices are there to really find out if I am the self? Well, actually, that's self-inquiry. These other practices are to get you ready for self-inquiry. One other place to look is in Adi Shankara, who's, go figure, the founder of Advaita Vedanta. Go figure that we would actually pay attention to what the founder had to say. I'm a little sarcastic right now. He wrote something called or in one of his works, is the prerequisites for self-inquiry. In fact, I'm going to get it and read some of them right now. I actually purchased a copy of James Schwartz's book, The Essence of Enlightenment. So, according to Shankara, the founder of this school, and Ramana would talk about this from time to time, there are some prerequisites before you can practice self-inquiry. And here's just an example. Discriminating between what's real and unreal, meaning what's eternal and not eternal. Dispassion, not having a lot of passion, and hence the practice of bhakti yoga to purify rajas, and karma yoga. Bhakti yoga for rajas, and karma yoga for tamas. Control of the mind, control of the senses, meaning the senses aren't continuously seeking more sensual experiences. Single pointedness, to have one goal. Ramana said that as well. He said, until single pointedness, I think I already said that quote. No. I misquoted. Ramana said, until single pointedness of mind is achieved, trying to realize the self through self-inquiry is like trying to put out a fire with a wet noodle. Forbearance, meaning the capacity to bear suffering, to bear pain. Devotion, faith, burning desire for freedom. So anyone can work on those things to begin getting ready for self-inquiry. And you may already be ready. If you have some of those things, if your mind is primarily sattvic, then you're already ready. And those particular qualities will only fuel fuel it more quickly. And of course, there's the very ripe soul for whom all they need is just to hear. And I would I would argue to hear the message and then the energetic transmission that comes from an actual awakened being. Um, and it can happen in an instant. Thanks so much for dropping by. And thank you for a wonderful question. Much love.